communities to the nation. My name is Portia, and today I'm joined by the fabulous MEC in KwaZulu-Natal MEC, the Honorable MEC Martin Meyer. We are looking to everything that comes from within the infrastructure, unemployment. We're talking about tenders. Oh man, that will be very nice. But let me firstly just welcome you, Honorable Meyer. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. It's wonderful being with you here today.
Yes. MEC, people do not know you that much on a personal level. We all know Martin Meyer. I remember the other statement you told us when we were together in an event. That was very funny and interesting. But tell us, who is Martin Meyer during his own time?
Thank you so much. Yes, like I said, I'm just a normal South African. I'm 49 years old, live in eThekwini, love this province. I've been in KZN now for almost 20 years. From the thriving metropolis of Bloemfontein, I moved to Durban many years ago. And let me also say Happy Pride Month to those who celebrate Pride Month with me. I think it's very important, and as we're going into Youth Month as well. So yes, I'm just a normal South African from an Afrikaans-speaking background that loves my province, loves my country, and want to do my bit to make it better. And for my little bit of off time, it's me, my dogs, and walking on the beach. Very stereotypical, I know, but it helps me relax.
I like that a lot. Well, that's just common. I mean, people would just walk their dogs and we just like, okay, it's another day.
Exactly,
Lovely day in our beautiful city. Now, what else do you inspired you rather to get into the public political space?
So my background is I'm a social worker by background,
okay.
and I worked as a social worker, and at one stage I worked as a social worker in the child care field, which was very challenging, and I kept being so upset that the systems are not in place. And I thought, well, I can sit on the outside and criticize and complain, or I can get involved, and I'm much more the get involved type of person. So I moved to Durban, and then I started getting involved in politics. Took me a while to decide which political party would suit me best, and just started getting involved. But before that, my background was more non-party political politics, so the field of human rights.
Right.
I worked in the human rights field for quite a long time with organizations like Amnesty International and others, and especially in the field of children's rights, but also LGBTIQ rights, which is still sometimes a challenge in South Africa.
That is really beautiful. I mean, activism, we can never go wrong with it. And there's so much advocacy that is needed for so many groups that are marginalized in a society at large. Now, MEC, I'm just going to put you a little bit on your spot. I like doing that a lot. The values that guide your leadership style, what is it?
So I think, first of all, is authenticity. I think, if you look at the world over, democracy is on the back foot right now, and it's moving in the wrong direction. And I think it's because people have lost trust in their political leaders.
Right.
And I think it's because we as politicians have stopped being ourselves and start playing this role we think people want from us.
Right.
So I think authenticity is very important to me. I am my authentic self. This is who you get. Martin Meyer is who Martin Meyer is. There's not 2 or 3 Martin Meyers. There's only this one. And I think that's very important. But also the fact that we must always remember who we work for. Right. We are servants. We are not leaders in that sense. And I think in South Africa we have created pedestals, and we put our political leaders on those pedestals, and we start feeling very important, and we gather these titles around us, and I must sit in a separate room when I eat, and all these things. And those things, I think, has moved us a distance between us and the people we work for. They don't work for us. And I think the last one that's very important to me is just absolute honesty. Be honest in everything that you do. If I don't know the answer, I'll tell you. If I can't provide you with something, I'm not going to make a promise I can't keep. I think if we just can bring back honesty in our political discourse, we will go a long way.
This is very profound. And final one in this one, getting to know you is very beautiful, because the last guest that sat there just a few minutes ago, she was like, oh man, you're going to have my fave. I'm like, okay. But we all know you are the bubbliest person ever that is in the legislature. What has been your highlight of being in the MEC position?
Yeah, it's actually, I think next week is 2 years since the government of provincial unity came into being, and I became MEC, and I totally, nothing can prepare you for it. I think it is when you can actually see differences coming, finishing Menzie High School, I think, is something that's of great importance to me. This is a school that looked terrible, where the children year after year and the educators were giving 100% matric result in the most dire conditions in the oldest school in Umlazi Township. And this project was delayed by the construction mafia for 5-6 years. And we said, no, we're going to do it. And being there, handing the school over, seeing the celebration, I think that for me shows what can be done if government really puts its mind and its actions to it. So I think that for me was an absolute high point. And then much more low key, we visited a school in Umkanyakude district, which is a deeply rural area, a brand new secondary school that our department has built there for the Department of Education that looks like a school, a Model C school in the city. And we could give that school to the children and to the community. And I think those are the type of highlights. Is doing my job, weirdly. It's the highlight. It's just, I always say to Steve, it's weird that people sometimes praise a fish for swimming. I'm just doing my job. But that for me is a highlight every day.
That's wonderful. I like that example. That's really interesting. But it's what we know. That we have to thank you. Oh, thank you so much for doing that. But you're just saying you're doing your job.
I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do. That's it.
Now, MEC, people have expressed their frustrations due to the lack of resources, the lack of service delivery, due to so many of their issues that they are seeing at the time. But let's look into this one, the main one in your office. What's the main concerns that people are raising? I know that you have been going around in different communities and conversing with people. What is the main one that people really...
I think if 2 years ago you ask people what do they know about public works and infrastructure, they'll tell you, oh, tender corruption.
Yeah.
That would have been the number one thing people know about us as a department. And we took that very seriously because we wanted to rebuild the trust between us and the community we serve and the contractors we work with. So we went on a very strong path of making sure that corruption is dealt with decisively in our department. All our tender meetings, for instance, now is audio-visually recorded. We use AI technology and all those things. And we've dropped from almost every tender ending up in a court case to none of our tenders ending up in court cases, because we take this extremely seriously. What we've also done, we've done the same with interviews for jobs, because that's another place where corruption really creeps in. We've done consequence management. It's not, when I say this, it's not something I'm proud of, but of the 10 senior managers that was in the department when I came there, only 2 are left because we said, no, there'll be consequences for wrong actions within this department. And we took it very, very seriously. And it's not a nice thing. It's not something I like talking about, but it's something that had to happen, and we did that. But also just the other thing that people would say about our department is that we were excellent at wasting money. And we were excellent at wasting money.
Yes.
But we're very proud, and Steve alluded to it earlier, that 2 years ago, our fruitless and wasteful expenditure as a department was standing over 700 million. This year, we ended up our budget here with 0 fruitless and wasteful expenditure, not 1 cent. All the money that we got, we spent on what we're supposed to.
Ow.
And that's something we're excessively proud of, because that means money is spent on where it's supposed to be spent. And I think the last thing that we're now focusing very hard on is we are brilliant at producing our projects over budget and over schedule.
Right.
And we said, well, that's actually not what we're supposed to do. So now we're focusing very hard on our projects. We're improving our project management. And we want to be sure that if we say a school is going to be built within 2 years, we build a school within 2 years. And if we say that school is going to cost 200 million, that school will cost 200 million. So that's where our focus lies now. I think that's the other still negative that people have about our department, based on facts, but we're fixing it, and we are going to restore trust in our department.
There's something that I've seen, and MEC, I said, whenever I see you or whoever is responsible for that, most of the contractors or constructions that were big and in our province are now moving. I've seen in my area, and it's around New Germany.
Yeah.
There's a freeway that was there for almost all my youth. it's almost in completion now. And when the year, or rather last year, when it started, you could see we said we will never finish this. Yeah. And we were tired as the community around there. But right now, you can literally tell with this particular construction is almost finished, and we are going to use this freeway very, very soon, which is plausible on your side as well. Now, the constructions that are taking place in KwaZulu-Natal have been also having some challenges before that had to do with looting of money, corruption, but also the people that really want all the money for themselves. How did you go about on ensuring that the money that needs to work for the communities and residents really does the job?
So I think, again, it comes down to making sure that we manage the money we get very effectively by ensuring that we do consequence management, not only on our own staff that I touched on already, but also contractors with some contractors. There are very good contractors out there, but some contractors were taking us for a ride. Delaying projects, so we must pay them more for delayed projects, using dodgy materials but charging us for high quality materials. You know, sometimes we were paying for a Rolls Royce but we were getting a Tata. And we said, no, but that can't happen anymore. You know, we have to focus very efficiently on managing that. We've already now in the last year blacklisted 7 contractors for doing exactly that. And that's not an effective use of the money. So those are some of the things that we've done. But we've also focused very hard on blocking our project. You spoke about it. But a year ago, 79 of our projects were totally stalled.
Wow.
That's down to less than 10 now. So we've unblocked over 60 of our projects. They're moving forward. We're going to complete them within this year. Those other ones, we are dealing with the problems and they're going to be dealt with. And in many of those, it was contractors that was delaying the projects. So we are working really hard to do that. But the other problem that we had, as you well know, is the construction, the so-called construction mafia. I don't actually like calling them that because it makes them sound very fancy. They're just criminals. That delayed a lot of our projects. We've dealt with that. It's still an ongoing problem. But there, I think what we're doing, to also come back to your question, is we're now involving communities in our projects.
Okay.
So we're not coming from the outside in. We're coming much earlier now and say to communities, no, this is your project. Be part of this project. Tell us what you need and what you want. And I think that's also helping our efficiency quite a bit.
Oh, that's wonderful, and that's very applaudable, honestly, to see the change in a very short time. And you can tell that people are going to enjoy using the infrastructure, but also they're taking accountability and in confidence of their own. That's really applaudable for what you have achieved with the departments. Now, MEC, one of the most anticipated developments is the upcoming budget. And you just mentioned one of those has to do with infrastructure, which is so important, especially in the province. I mean, South Africa is I'm not going to say it's new, but of course we've had some hindrances in the times. Now, with the upcoming budget, the department will soon be presenting it. And how significant is this budget as compared to the maiden budgets and the main one as well?
So I think a couple of things is that we are really changing our focus in that we want to become a department that focuses on our core mandate.
Okay.
And this budget is very much focused on stopping all the extras that wasn't actually our mandate as a department and focusing what we're supposed to do.
Okay. And
we're focusing on 2 things: infrastructure delivery and job creation. Because our unemployment figures in this province is way too high in the country as a whole, and we have a responsibility as a department. And what we're saying is we can't create all the jobs ourselves. It's not government's role. It's our role to create an environment where jobs can prosper. And we've seen already that it's starting to show fruit in that the infrastructure or the construction industry is the only one that's shown growth in employment in this province in the last quarter. And year on year, the improvement has been quite significant. But some of the other things that we're focusing on in this budget is insourcing of our artisans. So we had a massive vacancy rate amongst artisans, so our plumbers, our carpenters and our electricians, which means we had to quite often tender it out to other companies to come and do very basic maintenance that we should be doing ourselves. And that triples or sometimes 5 or 6 times make the cost more because we're not paying another company to do it. So this budget is very much focused on bringing people back in those type of jobs so that we can do it ourselves. And lastly, which we are celebrating today with our Tech Day at our conference center today, is that we've put aside 20 million rand for digitalization. We've set ourselves a target. So 2 years ago, this was a fully paper-based department. Okay. Everything was done on paper. Everything was done on paper. It's shocking. And we've given ourselves a target for 3 years to be a fully digital department, and we've made long headways, and we've put 20 million rand aside in the budget this year to make sure this department can become more efficient and quicker to respond, and just a modern department. It is the 21st century after all.
Yeah.
Using systems from 1990 is not going to do it anymore, unfortunately.
It's no longer working
That's
for
just
us.
not working
Not
for me
at all.
at all.
I don't want to walk around and do something that I can do on my phone.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, even taking something stupid like leave. Official that works in Newcastle had to drive to our offices in Ladysmith to hand in a leave form that then had to be driven to Port Elizabeth, to Pietermaritzburg for signature. Now it's all done on your phone. You can put in your leave, everything is done electronically. We're saving money and time, and that makes us a more efficient department.
You mean literally they were sending papers for leaves?
Leave up to the 1st of February. Leave in this department was a paper form you had to fill in triplicate, and then drive to an office to go and hand it in.
Okay.
Can you believe it? In
That's
2026, but we fixed
excessive.
it. We fixed it. It's no longer the problem for us.
This is beautiful to hear. But it also shows how far we've come as a country as well. That is 33 years into democracy, and here we are. We're moving into the digitalization. Now, without giving us too much information on some of, but what are some of the highlights that we might see, or the shift that you might announce it during your budget speech?
Yeah, like I said, I think the money we're putting aside for digitalization and for bringing artisans in-house is very important. But I think generally the focus of this budget, people will see very clearly. So one thing we're touching on in our budget speech this year will be that up to now, we were a department that were disrupted. Now we're going to become the disruptors. We're going to change the way things are done. We are saying that the old ways are no longer working, that we need to find new ways of doing things. And as I said earlier today, when I made the address at our Tech Day, people don't measure us by the amount of meetings we have. They don't measure us by the amount of forms we filled in or any of that. They measure us by the services we deliver.
Right.
They measure us by the schools that are built, the clinics that are fixed. That's what they measure us by. And this budget is very much focused on saying, let's go back to that. Let's deliver services so that every cent we get from the Treasury as a department is spent on the people of KwaZulu-Natal and nothing else.
Yeah, MEC, I'm just going to throw this one. It might sound excessive a little bit, even though I'm saying it's myself. Now, how will you communicate, or rather communities, feel the impact of the budgets? Because at the end of the day, the budget is beautiful, and you say all the numbers, you give us all the deliverables, but if the deliverables are not actually delivered, it just hinders the community's lives. So how are they going to fill this one?
So we've already started that, actually. So every year, every department is supposed to deliver what we call our annual performance report, or APRs, to the legislator. Okay. So I stand up the legislator and I read a 25-minute speech. This was what we've achieved. And it's great. The law says we must do it, and it's fantastic. We're being held accountable. You don't know what we said. No one watches the legislator on YouTube or wherever it is. Yeah. So what we've done is we said, no, but we actually have to report not to the members of the legislature, but to the people on the ground. Okay. So we then did a roadshow to the various districts. We called the communities in and said, this is what we've achieved this year. This is where we failed this year. And you tell us, we are now busy with the budget. What do you want us to see doing in the next year? And we've already implemented some of the things we got. So I think that is what we're doing, is we are taking this no longer from boardrooms and legislative buildings, but actually on the ground to the people, saying this is what we have done with your infrastructure, with your money, and what do you want to see us doing going forward? And I'll give one example of how this has already shown results, a very simple example. One of the main things people complained about was EPWP, that our department plays a role within the province. And one of the suggestions that came from a young lady in her 20s is, there's nowhere for me to report problems or corruption within EPWP. So we said, all right, that's unacceptable. We created a reporting line that went 3 weeks after that. The reporting line went live. It's on our website. It's anonymous. It's safe. And within the first 3 weeks, we got 18 actionable complaints of EPWP, things we could fix and address. And this is how we realized that things like sex for jobs is still a problem.
It is a huge problem.
And we need to address it, you know. So that's one example that we went to the community. They said they want to see this. We quickly moved some money around within our budget and said, let's make it happen. And that's already happening. And that's how we're going to address it. It's just bringing this department back to the ground where we belong.
Where we belong, absolutely. Now, MEC, the seats we are sitting on, the lady before you, she's in her 30s, and she said to ask you about the unemployment in the province, especially focusing on the young people. Yeah. She was very concerned. She wanted to wait for you.
No, and it is really important for us. You know, our youth unemployment is a time bomb that this country can't afford to go off, and we need to deal with it. One of the programs obviously that we're involved in, as I said, is EPWP. We're very proud of what we've achieved, that our target was 135,000 jobs to be created for EPWP or opportunities, and we created 155,000. We exceeded our target with 20,000, and we exceeded our target on both women in employment and youth in employment through the EPWP program. Right. But we know there are many problems with EPWP, many challenges. We sat down with the national department, that's the overall custodian of the program, and Minister McPherson, and the new improved EPWP was launched in our province about a month ago. There's 2 provinces where the new system is going to be rolled out, and we are one of the 2 provinces because our achievements have been so good in EPWP, which is going to do quite a few things. It's going to take political interference out. So now you register online, you don't have to go to a counsellor anymore, and political interference. It's all now going to be done on a digital platform. People register, political interference is going to be taken out of it. We can monitor. But the main thing is, because EPWP has become nothing more than a type of grant. You come, you work for 3 months, sweeping the streets or doing whatever you do, you get a small income, and then it ends. And you go home and your situation hasn't changed one bit. And we said, no, that's unacceptable. So now we are targeting with TVET colleges and other organizations, and Harambe, which is doing great work in this field, so that when you leave with a qualification. You leave with something that I can now do this. So because working for government is not the ideal. Working in the private sector is where we want people, or to start their own jobs. And I'll give one silly example, and it's not really silly because it's so profound, is that we have a furniture making project within our department where we teach people how to make furniture that's in the EPWP program, with the idea we would like them to come and fix our school desks and things like that. You know, we can do that here. And we did a graduation earlier this year, and the one guy and 4 others that's in the program has already started their own company. They're making amazing furniture, and they've started their own business. He's employing 7 people now through something he learned through EPWP, and that's what EPWP should achieve. So I think when it comes to job creation, EPWP is our flagship, but it can't just be something that's an opportunity for 3 months and then it's over. It really has to bring long-term solutions to young people, and I think that's very important to us. The other one is women. Because we're in a field in construction where women struggle to get the foot in the door. And we struggle to meet our targets because we're struggling to find women that's working in the construction industry. But strangely, my women contractors finish on time and in budget and don't give me headaches. I'm not saying men give me headaches, but it's definitely an interesting thing to observe. So we launched our She Builds advisory body last year, which is an advisory body of 11 women in the construction industry that's also helping us bring more women into this industry to make sure, because money given to women is money given to a family. And that's very important to us.
This is absolutely, and I just want to say, clock it's there. Somebody taught me that recently. Let me see, the significance, I mean, KZN is very unique. That's one thing about this province. Coming from Bloem, of course, it's very small, brah. But KZN is very unique, and its uniqueness, it gives you, it might give you a bit of a headache if it's me, but for you, because you're at MEC, take us through some of the challenges that you face, especially when you're dealing with the matters around infrastructure in the province.
So I think one of the things that makes KZN a very unique, challenging, but also rewarding place to work in is things like the Nkunyama Trust. That we have properties, schools and clinics and hospitals that stands on land that doesn't actually belong to the government, it belongs to the Nkunyama Trust. And that comes with its own challenges when we want to have things done on that land. And the role that traditional leadership play. In KZN, it's much more a bigger role that traditional leadership play. And that's a field we have to navigate as a department. But I think we found in most cases that traditional leaders and ourselves want the same thing, and that's services for the people they serve, just like I serve a constituency. And I think we've been so far been managing to navigate it, but we have to think of new ways to do that. Another challenge is that KZN, people see us as an urban province because they see eThekwini and they think, oh, look at this modern city province, while we're actually a largely rural province. You know, and challenges like connectivity. People can't phone on their cell phones. They can't phone the ambulance. They can't phone the police when there's a problem. Those are the type of challenges that we have now tackled head on as a department, saying, but how do we deal with those things? But overall, you know, I think while we are a very unique province, I think people also have a lot of wrong perceptions about KZN. You know, before the last elections in 2024, everybody said, oh, there's going to be violence in KZN. There's going to be looting and riots, and it's going to end up terribly. And there was not one instance of violence. And we are the only province that has now 3 times democratically changed our government. There was one government that was elected in 94, it was changed to another political party, and now it's changed to a GPU. So we're actually a very vibrant province. We love democracy in this province. And even though we have very unique challenges, we're also finding solutions to our challenges. And I think that makes KZN a very special place to work at.
Absolutely. This is very, very true. Let's look into the accountability. You just said wonderful and, I mean, an amazing report on your 0% of none at all of misuse of funds. But in instances where there is corruption and it gives headache at times when you're hearing. I'll make an example. Last week we were at some place around Duzuma, built six houses out of 148 million rands. It was ridiculous, and I'm still trying to think of how many houses should have been built up with that amount of money. But here we are. Now, how do we take back and ensure that the community still gains the access, and people that have done this, they're also kept, they are taken into accountability?
So we took that also again very seriously as a department. We had disciplinaries against numerous officials, not necessarily to fire them, but to also just bring corrective measures in. Some of them resigned before we could go to disciplinaries. But you know, we didn't step back and say, no, we're not going to, you know, people can get away with whatever they want to. We have reduced political interference. I don't interfere in the day-to-day running of the department, because that's not my role as the politician. My role is oversight and give political direction and policy direction. That's my role. So no one is protected. No one is asked for their membership cards of any political party within our department anymore. And I think that's also helped significantly. We're not afraid to lay criminal charges against our own. If officials have done things that is criminal, we do take these matters to the Hawks. We open charges and say, please investigate. But here's a very simple example. When I came into office, I wrote to so forensic investigations in KZN falls under the office of the Premier. So I wrote to the Premier's office saying, please send me all the forensic investigations into this department over the last 8 years. And they sent me, I think it was 26 reports. Not one recommendation of those reports were implemented. Not one. So while we're going through forensic investigations, we're getting these reports, we're getting professionals to write these reports, and these are the recommendations, and no one implements them. They were probably lying in a folder somewhere. So that's the first thing we did. We just implemented the recommendations. And sometimes it's hard to implement those recommendations, but it's the right thing to do. So I think the main answer is what we're doing is we are brave enough to stand up and say, no more. Oh, there's one last thing. Steve was going to shout at me if I forget this one. We are the first government department in the country to have done this. So you know there's organizations like Alta and Corruption Watch and others, and government fears those organizations because they come and they look and they tell you. So we said, no, we're going to do things differently. We invited them.
Oh, wow.
We said, come meet us. We put everything on the table. We said, here's our books, here's the measures we've taken, here's our whistleblower policy. Are we on the right track? And they were very honest with us. They say, yes, you're doing this right. No, you can improve here. We've now done an MOU with Corruption Watch and other organizations. Some of those organizations have helped us improve our whistleblower policies. So we're saying that, no, we don't see people that fight corruption as our enemies. They are partners. And we've invited them in, and we say, we want to be corruption-free.
Right.
We're asking you to help us. And we were the first ever department to do that in South Africa.
That's scary. I can imagine. I'm thinking of an outer in your mind.
Yeah, no, it wasn't easy meetings. I was quite nervous before that meeting, but it is the right thing to do.
Right.
Because they want the same thing we do, a clean government for the people.
Absolutely. Now, let me see. What is the message you can give to a person who's lost faith due to corruption? And how exactly can the communities be able to come and assist departments and government into ensuring accountability? You
know, you touch on something that still brings tears to my eyes. When we did this meeting of people on the ground, and I told you about this, we were people complaining about EPWP, and this 21-year-old young lady stood up and she said, "I'm losing hope in government, and I'm just losing hope." Now, if government is taking people's hope away from us, then we are criminally liable to some serious things, because we are supposed to bring hope to people as a government, not take hope away. And I think, so your question is very pertinent to what we're trying to do in our department, but in government as a whole now, and in the GPU as well, is by making people trust government again, we bring back hope. But to do that, they need to see results. They need to see jobs. They need to see the unemployment figures come down. They need to see schools go up and hospitals go up. And that's the type of things that we're now focusing on. But it is a partnership.
Right.
And we want people, if you see wrongdoing, you must tell us, because I cannot be everywhere. Our officials can't be everywhere. If you see wrongdoing, you must report it. If a person is asking you to have sex with them so you can get an EPWP opportunity, report that to us. Stand with us so we can fight this, because I've always said this, that South Africa, when together, nothing can stop us. The people of this country overcame an evil government system that was putting a lot of money into play, but together we overcame that system. We can overcome criminality too, if we stand together. We can overcome corruption, we can overcome construction mafia and all other type of things if we just stand together as a country, say we want the same things and fight for it. So that's what we need to do here.
Absolutely, absolutely. But as I know this particular group will be very mad at me if I don't ask you, MEC, because you are here. You remember the EPWP, former EPWP employees from eThekwini? That's where I remember there's a court case that is still in the courts. But how far is it on your side as government? Is there anything promising for them?
So unfortunately what happened there was that eThekwini employed more people than they were getting grants for, and they were using their own budget for it. So they didn't fall officially under our EPWP program.
Right.
So that's purely a matter between the Metro
and
those workers, and we're not involved in that one at all.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No,
I don't know if I say a few or what, but like I said, we know there are challenges with EPWP, but we're working very hard to fix those challenges.
This was really very disappointing for that particular group. Now, let's move on to the front.